Hi everyone, I'm Amy, and today I am going to teach you the absolute basics of knitting, made easy for beginners. All you need to get started are 2 knitting needles and a ball of yarn. There is nothing else that you need to start knitting. First, take out the ball of yarn and pull out the tail end of the yarn. There are 2 methods to doing this. The first and more direct one is to find the tail from the outer layer of the ball. The other method, if it's not clearly visible, is to reach into the center cavity in the ball and fish for the tail. Pull it out if you can find it. If not, the way I like to do it is to use your fingers to move as far inwards as possible until they touch, then take out any small section of the yarn until the end comes out. The benefit of the second way of finding the tail is that the ball will be more balanced during the knitting process, making it less likely to roll away when pulled, but the best way is the way that works for you. Having taken out the yarn, the next step is to make a slip knot. To do this, hold the yarn with both hands and bring them together, flipping it over, like so, to form a loop where the hand closer to the tail is underneath while the other side is on top. Pinch the point where the yarn intersects itself with the fingers you just used to hold near the yarn's tail, in my case, those from my left, and reach through the loop with 2 fingers from your other hand. For me, they are the index finger and thumb on my right hand. Pull the yarn connected to the ball of yarn with the fingers, remaining inside the loop, through the circle until that loops over the thumb instead. Then gently pull with the free hand, my left, until the knot is somewhat tight. This should make a nice slip knot. With your free hand, take one of your knitting needles and pass it through the noose that you just made. With your other hand, gently pull the yarn on the side closer to the whole ball of yarn outwards, allowing the noose to fit snugly on the needle while being able to move freely. Now we can start the casting on process. Hold the knitting needle with your left hand and the long side of the yarn connected to the ball with your right. Wrap some of the yarn around your right thumb like this. Pass your left hand's knitting needle through the yarn from under your right thumb. Withdraw your right thumb and pull the yarn outwards, repositioning it if needed, until it is also comfortably on the needle, next to the slip knot. You have now made your first stitches. Let's repeat the process again. I'll do it slower this time, from wrapping the yarn around your thumb onwards. Hold the left needle with your thumb and index finger and pass it through the yarn on your right thumb in an upwards motion. Pull the loop out of your right thumb and secure it comfortably onto the needle. Continue to do this until you have made as many stitches as you need. The more stitches, the wider your final product will be. Once you think you have enough, count the number of stitches you made, just to give yourself a general sense. Spreading the stitches out can make it easier to tell. By the way, as a piece of trivia, when knitters refer to their first stitch, they usually mean the one closest to the ball of yarn, which would be the last stitch you made. In this case, I made 16 stitches. Make sure that your stitches are evenly arranged and flat, almost like a spine, and straighten them out if you need to. The bottom of the stitches, where you can see a distinctive thread of your yarn, should entirely face toward yourself. This will prevent the deformations from expanding later, making your work neater and more pleasing to the eye. Find your first stitch and push all your stitches in its direction until they are close to the tip of the needle. Take your other knitting needle and insert it into the first stitch and secure the crossing point of the X you just made. With your other hand, wrap the yarn around only the right needle from the bottom upwards. Perform a scoop with the right needle to poke it through the yarn you just wrapped, making a stitch. You can now pull the first stitch on your left out of the left needle, making your first full stitch. You're doing amazing. To knit your second full stitch, repeat what you just did for your first. Continue to make more stitches one by one until you have made the same number of stitches as before on your left needle. When poking your right needle through the wrap, you may want to stretch it slightly so that you have more space to pull out your second left stitch. After each stitch, push the next one closer to the tip of the left needle for an easier time. It should slide with minimal resistance. If not, the stitches are too tight, which is a common mistake beginners make. When starting out, it is common for your fingers to feel stiff and unresponsive, while the needles and yarn will seem hard to control. Your palms may also begin to sweat. However, as you will grow to realize once you have more projects under your belt, the first row of any knitting project is usually the most difficult. As you gradually become familiar with the process, you will become more comfortable, and your speed will increase once you develop a muscle memory. I've now finished the last stitch in the first row of stitches. I decided to adjust them a little bit for my own satisfaction, although this step is pretty optional. Once you finish the first row and have removed all stitches from your left needle, turn your right needle like this to become vertical. The end of your row has become the start, and vice versa. Remember that the longer side of the yarn connected to the ball is always what you knit with, not the shorter end. Switch your right needle over to your left hand and take the empty one as your new right needle. Once again, poke it through the left needle to form an X and repeat all the steps you took for your first row. I found that using your left index finger to hold the bottom of the X stabilizes the two needles and makes the process less of a pain to master. Throughout all this, remember to relax your grip on the yarn so that the stitches can slide freely on the needle, making them even and consistent. Otherwise, your yarn will refuse to cooperate and dramatically increase the difficulty of the stitches, becoming as taut and stubborn as a wire. This is not to say that you should be overly relaxed with your grip, since then your stitches will be wavy and ever-changing. For every row I have finished, I like to check the smoothness of my stitches and fix them if needed. Additionally, I am also trying to prevent accidentally leaving out some stitches that may have fallen off the needle. You can never be too careful. Knitting will take time and patience. Treat it almost like a form of meditation as well as an exercise for your fingers. There is great joy to be found when your piece takes form before you and develops until it is finished. That, in my opinion, is well worth the work. In general, keeping track of your stitches during the process instead of trying to figure it out at the end is a good habit to keep. Having to remove extra stitches wears on your patience and can lead to further mistakes down the road. When just starting out, choose thicker yarn and needles with rounder tips to develop a feel for knitting first, before trying to make something specific, which may require more precise equipment. The key to the whole process is to relax and take your time. Put on some music, get a cup of coffee, and take frequent breaks. Keep going with your rows until you are satisfied with how many you have made. I decided to create a total of 12 rows, but when you stop is entirely up to yourself and yourself only. The specific technique we use today is called the knit stitch. When you use the knit stitch on both sides, the result will have a similar texture as our product, a minor raised bumpiness. Using the knit stitch, you can expand your project to become a scarf or even a rug. Besides the knit stitch, there is also the purl stitch, which are the two most basic stitches in knitting. In the next video, we will expand on the purl stitch and the technique for it. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you found the video helpful to you. See you next time.